The cottage felt smaller when everyone else was gone. Lyra pressed her face against the cool glass of the kitchen window, watching the last of the carriages disappear down the winding path toward the village square. Her stepmother Helena had made it clear there was no place for Lyra at the mating ceremony. "You'll only embarrass us," Helena had said that morning. She'd adjusted her own daughter Clara's hair one final time. "Stay here and tend to the house. At least then you'll be useful." Clara had laughed, sharp and cutting, as if any wolf would want her anyway. "She can't even shift properly." They weren't wrong. At 22, Lyra's wolf was still weak, still struggled to surface. While other wolves could shift as easily as breathing, hers felt trapped behind glass, present but unreachable. Another failure to add to the long list Helena kept in her mind. Lyra turned away from the window. She busied herself with meaningless tasks, swept floors that were already clean, organized shelves that didn't need organizing. Anything to keep her hands moving and her thoughts quiet. The ceremony would last all day. With luck, she could lose herself in the silence until they returned. The knock at the door came 3 hours later. Lyra froze, her hand halfway to the flower jar. No one knocked here. No one visited. Helena made sure of that. The second knock was firmer, more insistent. Lyra crept to the front room and peered through the small window beside the door. Her heart stopped. A man stood on her doorstep, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing clothes that cost more than her family's cottage. His dark hair was slightly mussed, as if he'd been running his hands through it. But it was his eyes that made her step back from the window. Golden eyes that seemed to look right through the glass and find her. "I know you're in there." His voice was deep. It carried the unmistakable weight of authority. "Please, open the door." Lyra's hands shook as she pressed herself against the wall. This had to be some mistake. No one like him came looking for someone like her. "I'm not here to hurt you." The voice was gentler now, almost coaxing. "I just want to talk." Against every instinct, screaming at her to hide, Lyra found herself reaching for the door handle. Something in his voice made her wolf stir, made her feel restless in a way she didn't understand. She opened the door just a crack and peered out. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. Those golden eyes focused entirely on her with an intensity that made her want to run. "You're Lyra." It wasn't a question. How do you know my name?" A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I make it my business to know everyone in my territory, even those who are kept hidden." The way he said it made heat rush to her cheeks. Of course he knew about her. Everyone knew about poor Lyra, the stepchild who couldn't shift right, couldn't do anything right. "I'm sorry if I've caused some kind of trouble," she said quickly. "I haven't left the cottage. I've been good, I promise." His smile faded. It was replaced by something that looked almost like anger. Not at her, she realized. For her. "You haven't caused any trouble, but we need to talk. May I come in?" "I don't think that's a good idea. My stepmother isn't here." His voice was firm but not unkind. "And I outrank your stepmother." Lyra's eyes widened as the pieces clicked into place. The expensive clothes, the authority in his voice, the way he spoke about his territory. "You're him, the Alpha King." Marcus inclined his head slightly. "I am, and you're coming with me to the ceremony." "No." The words slipped out before she could stop it. "I mean, respectfully, I can't. I don't belong there." "Says who?" "Says everyone." Lyra tried to close the door, but his hand shot out to stop it. His touch was gentle but immovable. "Please, Your Majesty, just leave me be. There are plenty of suitable wolves at the ceremony already." "I don't want suitable." His golden eyes held hers. "My wolf has been restless all morning, pulling me away from the ceremony, toward this cottage, toward you. There's something about you, Lyra, something you don't even know about yourself. There's nothing special about me. That's where you're wrong. He stepped closer, and Lyra caught his scent. Pine and earth, and something wild that made her wolf whine with longing. Get your cloak. You're coming with me. I can't. You can. His voice carried the weight of command now, but his eyes remained kind. Please, Lyra, trust me on this, as your king and as someone who sees what others have been blind to. Something in his presence made her feel different, stronger, like maybe for once in her life. She didn't have to hide. She thought about the empty cottage, the empty day stretching ahead, the empty years of hiding from everything that might matter. Okay, she whispered. Lyra had never ridden behind someone on a horse before. Marcus had offered her his mount, had climbed up behind her with his arms around her waist to keep her steady. Every inch of the journey, she felt his presence like a warm fire at her back. She tried not to think about what his touch meant, about the way her skin seemed to wake up wherever he was close, about the scent of pine that made her wolf pace restlessly beneath her ribs. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to girls like her. But his arms were solid around her. His breath was warm against her ear when he murmured directions, and when she let herself lean back against his chest. She felt something she'd never experienced before. Safety. The ceremony was already in full swing when they arrived. The clearing buzzed with conversation and laughter. Dozens of eligible wolves moved through the crowd, all hoping to catch the Alpha King's attention. Marcus helped her down from the horse. His hands lingered at her waist for just a moment longer than necessary. I don't belong here, she whispered again, taking in the beautiful dresses and confident faces around them. Stay close to me, Marcus murmured against her ear. Trust me. But trust was something Lyra had never learned to do. Every time she'd trusted before, she'd been hurt. Every time she'd hoped for something better, she'd been reminded of her place. The crowd parted as they walked through. Lyra heard the whispers start immediately. Is that Lyra? What's she doing here? Look how she's dressed. Like a servant. Her cheeks burned. Marcus's hand found the small of her back. Steady and warm. It kept her moving forward even when she wanted to disappear. She spotted Helena and Clara near the center of the gathering. Their faces were masks of shock and fury. This would cost her later. Helena would make sure of that. Marcus, Helena called out, hurrying over with Clara close behind. What a surprise to see you've brought our little Lyra. How thoughtful. The way she said little Lyra made it sound like something dirty. She was supposed to be home today, Clara added with a laugh that didn't quite hide her confusion. Tending to her duties. Her duties, Marcus said quietly, are here, with her people. Lyra wanted to tell him he was wrong. These weren't her people. These wolves with their perfect clothes and perfect lives had never accepted her. Never would. Of course, Helena said quickly. Though I do hope she won't be too much trouble. She's not used to proper company. Each word made Lyra smaller. She was shrinking with every breath, becoming the invisible nothing they'd always told her she was. If you'll excuse us, Marcus said, his voice carrying a slight edge. I have business to attend to. He guided Lyra away from her stepfamily, but she could feel their eyes following her, along with dozens of others. The center of the gathering held a raised platform where traditionally the Alpha King would make his choice of mate. All around them, beautiful wolves preened and positioned themselves, each one more suitable than she could ever be. I should go, Lyra whispered. This was wrong. I don't belong. Stop saying that. Marcus turned to face her, his hands coming up to frame her face. Stop telling yourself you're less than anyone here. But I am. No. His thumbs brushed across her cheekbones. You're everything. Before Lyra could ask what he meant, Marcus stepped up onto the platform. The crowd fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward their king. Lyra's stomach twisted. This was it. The moment when he would choose someone worthy, someone beautiful and confident and everything she wasn't, someone who could actually be a queen. She started to back away, to lose herself in the crowd before she had to watch him claim another woman. But something in his posture made her stop. He wasn't scanning the crowd with calculating eyes. He wasn't weighing options or considering politics. His golden gaze was searching for something specific, searching for her. "My people," Marcus's voice carried easily across the gathering. "Today marks a new beginning for our pack. Today I claim my mate." Excited murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lyra found herself pushed back as eligible females pressed forward, each hoping to catch the Alpha King's eye. Helena shoved Clara toward the front. "Stand straight," she hissed. "Smile." But Marcus wasn't looking at Clara. His golden eyes searched the crowd methodically until they found exactly what they were looking for. They found Lyra. Their gazes locked across the sea of people. The world seemed to stop. Lyra felt something shift inside her chest, something warm and bright and terrifying. Like a door opening after being locked for years, like recognition. "You," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. "Lyra Blackwood, come forward." The crowd turned as one to stare at her. Lyra heard gasps, whispers, someone's shocked laughter. But all she could see were those golden eyes calling to her. She couldn't move. This wasn't real. This couldn't be happening. Kings didn't choose girls like her. Not girls who were hidden away and told they were worthless. Her feet felt rooted to the ground. Her chest felt too tight to breathe. "Come to me," Marcus said more softly. And somehow she heard him despite the distance. But Lyra couldn't take a step. Fear had her locked in place like ice. Helena's face was a mask of fury and disbelief. "This is a mistake," she called out. "Marcus, surely you mean Clara. Clara Blackwood." "I mean exactly who I said." Marcus's voice was steel now. "Lyra, my mate." The word hit Lyra like a physical blow. Mate, the one thing she'd never dared dream of. The crowd began to part, creating a clear path between her and the platform, between her and Marcus, between her old life and something impossibly bright. But bright things burned, and Lyra had been burned too many times before. This had to be some cruel joke. Someone like Marcus didn't choose someone like her. Not really. Not when he saw what she truly was. She turned and ran. Behind her, she heard Marcus call her name, heard the crowd erupt into chaos, but she didn't stop, couldn't stop. Her weak wolf finally found strength, lending speed to her human legs as she fled toward the forest. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. The moment when the pretense would crumble and everyone would see the truth, that she was nobody special, nobody worth wanting. The forest welcomed her with cool shadows. Here at least she could breathe. Here she could try to make sense of what had just happened. Maybe it really had been a mistake. Maybe he'd meant to call another name and misspoke. Maybe the sound of pursuit cut through her spiraling thoughts. Not human footsteps, but something larger, something that made the ground shake with each stride. Lyra risked a glance over her shoulder and nearly stumbled. A massive black wolf was gaining on her, its golden eyes unmistakable even in its shifted form. Marcus. He was beautiful in his wolf form, all power and grace and wild strength. Everything she wasn't. Everything she could never be worthy of. "Leave me alone," she called back to him, surprised when her voice didn't break. "Find someone else, someone better." The wolf only ran faster. Lyra's human endurance was no match for an alpha's wolf. She felt her legs giving out, her lungs burning. When she finally stumbled and fell, scraping her palms against the forest floor, the black wolf was there in seconds. She scrambled backward against a tree trunk, expected him to shift back and demand answers. Instead, he moved to stand protectively in front of her, his massive head raised and alert. That's when she heard the growling. 3 rogue wolves emerged from the deeper forest, their eyes fixed on Lyra with unmistakable hunger. In her human form, alone and frightened, she would have been easy prey. But she wasn't alone. Marcus's wolf snarled a warning that seemed to shake the very trees. When the rogues didn't retreat, he moved. Lyra had never seen anything like it. Marcus fought with a precision and power that reminded her exactly who he was. Not just an alpha, but the Alpha King. The rogues didn't stand a chance. When it was over, when the threat was gone and the forest was quiet again, Marcus shifted back to his human form. He was breathing hard. Small cuts marked his chest and arms, but his eyes were focused entirely on her. "Are you hurt?" He was beside her in an instant, his hands gentle as they checked her scraped palms. "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why did you follow me?" "Because you're mine," he said it simply, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Because my wolf knew the moment I saw you that you belong with me." "That's impossible." "Is it?" Marcus settled beside her against the tree, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. "What did you feel back there, when our eyes met?" Lyra hugged her knees to her chest. She was unwilling to admit to the spark that had ignited in her chest. "Nothing." Liar. But he said it gently, without accusation. "It's called the mate bond, Lyra. It's what tells us when we've found our other half." "I'm nobody's other half." The words tasted bitter. "I'm barely even a whole person." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was careful. "Who taught you to think of yourself that way?" "Everyone." Lyra laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My stepmother took me in when my father died, but she made it clear I was a burden, a charity case. Clara got everything, the nice clothes, the attention, the love. I got chores and criticism and reminders that I should be grateful for even that much." She was telling him too much, revealing too many ugly truths. But something about his presence made the words spill out. "And your father, before he died?" "He tried." Lyra's throat tightened. "But he was sick for so long, and Helena made sure I knew I was the reason he couldn't get better, that taking care of me was wearing him down." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Lyra turned to look at him. This powerful man who claimed he wanted her. "Look at me, Marcus. Really look. I can barely shift. I have no money, no status, no beauty. I'm everything an Alpha King shouldn't want in a mate." "You're wrong." His voice was fierce now. "You're everything I didn't know I was looking for. You don't know me. Then let me." Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed against her cheek. "Let me show you what I see when I look at you." His touch was so gentle, so different from anything she was used to. "What's that?" "Strength," he said immediately. "A woman who survived years of being told she was worthless and somehow kept her heart intact. Gentleness that hasn't been destroyed by cruelty. Beauty that has nothing to do with what others have told you to see in the mirror." The words washed over her like sunlight. Lyra wanted to believe them. The longing in her chest was so strong it physically hurt. "I don't know how," she whispered. "How to what?" "How to trust that this is real. How to believe that someone like you could want someone like me." Marcus was quiet for a moment, studying her face in the dappled forest light. "What if I told you I don't want someone like me? What if I told you I've spent years surrounded by women who wanted my crown more than they wanted me, who saw the Alpha King but never saw Marcus? That's different, is it?" His thumb traced along her jawline. "You ran from me, Lyra. You're the first person in years who's seen me and run the other direction. Because I was scared. Because you're honest." Marcus shifted closer. "Because when you look at me, you don't see what you can get from me. You see what you think you don't deserve." Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes. "I don't understand why you're doing this." "Because you're my mate. Because my wolf recognized yours the moment I caught your scent. Because sitting here in this forest with you feels more right than anything has felt in my entire life." The certainty in his voice made something flutter in her chest. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying hope. "What if you're wrong? What if I disappoint you?" "Impossible. Look at me." He waited until her eyes met his. "I am the Alpha King. I could have chosen anyone at that ceremony. anyone in the entire kingdom, but I chose you. Not because I felt sorry for you, not because I'm confused or making a mistake, because you're mine and I'm yours, and that's how it's supposed to be. Lyra stared into those golden eyes. She felt something shift inside her. Not her wolf, but something deeper. Something that had been locked away for so long she'd forgotten it existed. Hope. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Neither do I, Marcus said, and his honesty surprised her. I know how to be a king. I know how to lead and fight and make hard decisions, but I don't know how to be a mate to someone who's been hurt the way you have. I'll probably mess it up, and if you do, then you'll tell me, and I'll do better. His smile was soft. We'll figure it out together. Together. Lyra couldn't remember the last time she'd been part of a together. My stepfamily is going to be furious, she said. Let them be. They'll say terrible things about you, about your choice. Let them say whatever they want. Marcus stood and offered her his hand. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. Lyra looked at his outstretched hand, this bridge between her old life and something unknown, something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She thought about the empty cottage waiting for her, the years of being told she was worthless, the voice in her head that whispered she didn't deserve anything good. Then she looked at Marcus, at the patience in his golden eyes, at the hand extended in invitation, not demand. What happens now? She asked. Now, Marcus said. You come home with me, and we see what happens next. Lyra took his hand. The cottage felt impossibly small when they returned. Marcus had to duck to get through the doorway. Lyra watched his eyes take in the cramped space, the threadbare furniture, the pile of mending in the corner that would never be finished. This is where you live? He asked, and there was something in his voice she couldn't read. It's not much. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. I know it's nothing compared to. It's too small, Marcus said simply. You deserve better than this. Before Lyra could respond, the front door slammed open. Her stepmother stood in the doorway. Her face was twisted with fury. Behind her, Lyra could see Clara peering over her shoulder, eyes wide with disbelief. You? Helena hissed, pointing at Lyra. What have you done? Lyra flinched. The familiar fear crept up her spine like ice. She's done nothing wrong, Marcus said. His voice carried that edge of command that made everyone in the room go still. Your Majesty. Helena's tone shifted to something sickeningly sweet. She dropped into an awkward curtsy. I'm so sorry you had to see this. Lyra is... She's not well. She gets confused, makes up stories. If she's bothered you in any way, the only thing that bothers me, Marcus said, stepping closer to Lyra, is how you've treated my mate. The word hung in the air like a lightning strike. Lyra watched her stepfamily's faces cycle through shock, disbelief, calculation. Your mate, Helena's voice cracked. But surely there's been some mistake. Lina is nobody. She's just a servant girl, barely better than a stray we took in out of charity. The words hit their mark. Even with Marcus beside her, even knowing he'd chosen her, the poison still found its way in. Lyra felt herself getting smaller. Watch your tongue, Marcus said. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. You're speaking about your future queen. Queen? Clara laughed, high and sharp. Lyra, she can't even shift properly. She's breaking. I said, watch your tongue. Marcus's eyes flashed gold. Everyone in the room took a step back except Lyra. She felt his presence like a shield at her back. You don't understand, Helena said desperately. She's not like us. She's damaged goods. Her mother died when she was young, and she's never been right since. Surely someone like Clara would be more suitable. I chose Lyra. Marcus's words cut through her stepmother's babbling like a blade. Not Clara. Not anyone else. Lyra. And I don't recall asking for your opinion on the matter. Lyra wanted to disappear. She wanted to sink through the floor and never have to face the mixture of hatred and disbelief on her family's faces. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. A humiliation, the way they looked at her, like she'd somehow tricked Marcus into this. It won't last, Helena said, her voice turning cruel. Once you see what she's really like, once the novelty wears off, you'll realize your mistake. She's weak, pathetic. She'll never be able to handle being a queen. The words landed like physical blows. Lyra felt herself crumbling under their weight. All the confidence Marcus had been trying to build in her scattered like leaves. That's enough. Marcus stepped forward. Lyra felt rather than saw the power rolling off him in waves. Lyra, get whatever you need. We're leaving. She can't just leave, Helena protested. She has duties here, responsibilities. Her only responsibility now is to me. Marcus turned to face the woman fully. Lyra saw her stepmother shrink back. And let me make something very clear. If I hear that any of you have spoken badly about Lyra, if you spread rumors or lies, if you so much as breathe her name in anything but respectful tones, I will make sure you regret it. Am I understood? The silence stretched tight as a wire. Finally, Helena nodded. Lyra moved through her small room like a ghost. She gathered the few things that belonged to her, a brush that had been her mother's, a book she'd found in the forest years ago, the plain brown dress she'd been mending. It all fit in a single small bag. When she came back out, Marcus was waiting by the door. Her stepfamily had retreated to the far corner of the room, whispering among themselves. Ready? He asked softly. Lyra nodded. She didn't trust her voice. As they walked toward the door, she heard Helena's voice, low and vicious. This won't last. She'll be back. Marcus stopped, turned. No, he said quietly. She won't, because she's finally going somewhere she belongs. The palace was nothing like Lyra had imagined. She'd expected something cold and imposing. Instead, Marcus led her through corridors filled with warm light. The sound of laughter drifted from distant rooms. Servants bowed as they passed. Their faces were kind, curious rather than hostile. This will be your room, Marcus said. He opened a door to reveal a space larger than the entire cottage she'd just left. For now, until you're ready for something else. Lyra stepped inside and felt dizzy. The bed was enormous, covered in soft blue fabric. There were windows that looked out over a garden, a fireplace already crackling with warmth. It was beautiful. It was also terrifying. I don't belong here, she whispered. You belong wherever I am, Marcus said. And I belong here, so you belong here too. The logic was simple, but her heart couldn't quite accept it. It's too much. You're my mate. Marcus caught her hands, stilled them, and in a few days, everyone in the kingdom will know it, which means you need to start believing it yourself. Over the next several days, Lyra felt like she was living someone else's life. Servants brought her meals she'd never tasted before. A seamstress came to measure her for new clothes. She shook her head over Lyra's protests that her old dresses were fine. Marcus appeared at her door each morning. He offered to show her more of the palace. Each day she found herself saying yes, despite her fear. The gardens are beautiful, she said one afternoon as they walked among the roses. It was easier to talk about safe things, surface things. Anything deeper felt too dangerous. My mother planted these, Marcus said. She said every queen should leave something beautiful behind. What kind of queen was she? Strong, kind when she could be, fierce when she needed to be. He glanced at Lyra. She would have liked you. You don't know that. I know she would have seen what I see in you. Lyra felt heat rise in her cheeks. What's that? Marcus stopped walking. He turned to face her fully. Strength that doesn't know its own power. Kindness that hasn't been beaten out of you despite everything you've been through. Beauty that comes from something deeper than just appearance. The words made her chest tight. Marcus, I know you don't believe me yet, but I'm going to keep saying it until you do. Each day, Lyra felt herself relaxing a little more. The palace staff treated her with genuine respect. Marcus was patient and kind, never pushing her faster than she was ready to go. But doubt still lived in the quiet spaces, in the moments between sleep and waking when her stepmother's voice whispered that this couldn't last, that eventually Marcus would see the truth about her. The first real test came 3 days later. Lyra was reading in the library when a woman she'd never seen before swept into the room. She was beautiful in the way Lyra's stepsisters tried to be but never quite achieved. Perfect golden hair, a dress that probably cost more than Lyra's stepfamily spent in a year. "So you're the famous Lyra," the woman said. She looked her up and down with obvious disdain. Lyra's stomach clenched. She recognized that tone, that look. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "Lady Catherine." The woman settled herself in a chair without being invited. "I was supposed to be at that ceremony, you know, before my family was called away on urgent business. Such a shame I missed it." Something in her voice made alarm bells ring in Lyra's head. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" Catherine's smile was sharp as a blade. "Because I have to wonder what would have happened if I'd been there, if Marcus had seen me before he settled for, well, whatever this is." The words hit like physical blows. Lyra felt herself shrinking back into the chair. All the confidence Marcus had been trying to build in her crumbled like sand. "I can see why he was confused, of course," Catherine continued. "You have a certain rustic charm. And men do sometimes make impulsive decisions they regret later, especially when the options are limited." Lyra's chest burned. Every cruel thing Helena had ever said came rushing back. Every reminder that she was worthless, unwanted. "I should go," she said, starting to stand. "Oh, don't leave on my account. I was just thinking out loud about how difficult this must be for you. Everyone watching, waiting to see if you'll measure up. Wondering how long before Marcus realizes his mistake." Catherine tilted her head. "It must be exhausting, pretending to be something you're not." "I never pretended anything." "Of course you didn't. You're just a simple girl who got incredibly lucky. Nothing wrong with that." Catherine's voice dripped false sympathy. "I just hope you're prepared for what happens when the luck runs out." Lyra felt tears threatening. She hated herself for it, for letting this stranger's words cut so deep. But they echoed every fear she'd been carrying. "What's going on here?" Both women turned to see Marcus in the doorway. His golden eyes took in the scene with sharp intelligence. "Marcus?" Catherine rose gracefully. Her whole demeanor shifted. "I was just getting acquainted with your companion." "My mate," Marcus corrected. He moved to stand beside Lyra's chair. "And you are?" "Lady Catherine. I'm so sorry we missed the ceremony. We had urgent family matters to attend to." She moved closer to Marcus. Lyra noticed how she positioned herself to show her best angles. "But I'm here now, and I do hope we'll have a chance to get better acquainted." "I'm sure that won't be necessary," Marcus said coolly. "Lyra and I were just about to have lunch." "Of course," Catherine's smile never wavered. "Lyra? It was so lovely to meet you. I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of each other." After she left, Marcus turned to Lyra with concern in his eyes. "What did she say to you?" Lyra wanted to tell him everything, but the words stuck in her throat. "Nothing, just being friendly." Lyra, the way he said her name, told her he knew she was lying. "She's right, though." The words tumbled out before Lyra could stop them. "Look at her. Look at me. If she'd been at the ceremony, I wouldn't have chosen her." Marcus knelt beside her chair. He took her hands. "I would have chosen you anyway. Every time, in any room, out of any crowd, I would choose you." "How can you be so sure?" "Because it's not about comparison. It's not about who's prettiest or most accomplished or best connected. It's about recognition. My soul recognizing yours." Marcus's grip tightened. "She could have been at 100 ceremonies, and I still would have walked right past her to get to you." Lyra wanted to believe him, but Catherine's words echoed in her head. They mixed with years of her stepfamily's poison, creating a chorus of doubt that drowned out everything else. That night, Lyra lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her beautiful room. She felt like an imposter in silk sheets. Every kind thing Marcus had said warred with every cruel thing she'd been told about herself over the years. And the cruel things were louder, more familiar. They felt like truth. Maybe Catherine was right. Maybe this was all just elaborate make-believe. Eventually, Marcus would see what everyone else saw when they looked at her. Nothing special, nothing worth keeping. The thought hurt so much she couldn't breathe, but it also felt inevitable, like a wound that had been waiting to open. She pressed her face into the pillow and tried not to cry. Tried not to think about how much it would hurt when this all came crashing down. The crisis came 3 days later. Lyra woke to find Marcus gone and a note slipped under her door. "He's meeting with Lady Catherine in the rose garden. Thought you should know. A friend." Lyra's hands shook as she read it. She told herself not to go, not to spy, but her feet carried her to the window that overlooked the gardens anyway. There they were, Marcus and Catherine, standing close together by the fountain, talking in low voices. As Lyra watched, Catherine reached up to touch Marcus's face. The gesture was intimate, possessive. Something inside Lyra shattered. She was dressed and running before she could think, down the corridors, past startled servants, out through the main doors. She had to get away before she fell apart completely. "Lyra!" Marcus's voice called behind her, but she didn't stop. She made it to the stables before he caught up. His hand closed gently around her wrist. "Let me go." She couldn't look at him. "Not until you tell me what's wrong." "I saw you, with her." The words came out broken. "I knew this would happen. I knew you'd realize." "Realize what?" His voice was sharp with confusion. "Lyra, look at me." She finally turned. The concern in his golden eyes almost undid her. "That I'm not enough. That she's everything I'm not. Beautiful and confident and—" "Stop." Marcus cupped her face in his hands. "Catherine came to me this morning. Do you know what she said?" Lyra shook her head. She was afraid to hear it. "She offered herself as my mate instead. Said she could give me connections, alliance, a worthy queen." His thumbs brushed away tears. Lyra didn't realize she was crying. "Do you know what I told her? That you'd think about it?" Marcus's laugh was soft and incredulous. "I told her I already have a worthy queen. I told her that even if every noble family in the kingdom turned their backs on me, I would still choose you. I told her to leave my palace and never come back." Lyra stared at him. You sent her away?" "I should have done it the moment she arrived." Marcus pulled her closer. "Lyra, I need you to understand something. The mate bond isn't a mistake. It's not temporary. It's not something that fades when someone prettier comes along." "But she's nothing to me." His voice was fierce now. "She could be the most beautiful woman in the world. And she'd still be nothing compared to you." The words washed over her, but years of conditioning were hard to break. "I'm broken, Marcus." The confession tore out of her. "I'm damaged and insecure, and I don't know how to believe that anyone could love me." "Then let me believe it for both of us until you can believe it too." He pressed his forehead against hers. "I love you, Lyra. Not because you're perfect, but because you're you. Because you're kind, even after the world was cruel to you. Because you're brave, even when you're scared. Because when you smile, really smile, it lights up everything around you." The words felt like sunlight after years of darkness. "I love you too," she whispered. Saying it felt like stepping off a cliff into flight. "I'm sorry I doubted." "No." His kiss cut off her apology. "No more apologies for feeling what they taught you to feel. We'll work on it together." She kissed him back then, poured years of longing into it. For the first time, she truly believed she deserved this, deserved him. When they broke apart, Marcus rested his hands on her waist. "There's something else, something I should have told you before." Lyra's heart clenched. "What?" "Catherine didn't come here by accident. She was sent by the Northern Pack. They're testing our bond, trying to find weaknesses they can exploit." His jaw tightened. "Using your past against you was part of their plan." The revelation should have terrified her. Instead, it filled her with a strange, fierce calm. They'd tried to break her, tried to use her own fears against her. But they'd failed. "They failed," she said aloud. "Yes, they did. Marcus's smile was proud and a little predatory. My brave queen. Queen? She tested the word. For the first time, it didn't feel like a costume that didn't fit. I liked the sound of that. That night, when Marcus kissed her in the doorway of her room, she didn't pull away. Stay, she whispered against his lips. His eyes searched hers. Are you sure? Instead of answering, she took his hand and led him inside. They moved together slowly, carefully, like they were learning a new language made of touch and whispered endearments. When he traced the line of her jaw with reverent fingers, she finally understood what it meant to be cherished. I love you, he murmured against her throat. She believed him completely. I love you too, she whispered back. The words came easier now, more natural. My alpha, my mate. Afterwards, they lay tangled in silk sheets. Moonlight streamed through the windows. Lyra felt something she'd never experienced before. Peace. Complete, bone-deep peace. No regrets? Marcus asked softly, his fingers threaded through her hair. Only that it took me so long to trust this, to trust you. She pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. I'm ready now, for whatever comes next. Good, he said. She could hear the smile in his voice. Because I have plans for us. Big plans. 6 months later, Lyra stood at the edge of the ceremonial clearing. She wore a dress that actually fit this time. White silk that moved like water. Delicate silver embroidery caught the afternoon light. Her hair was crowned with flowers. For once, she felt beautiful. Ready? Marcus appeared beside her. He was devastatingly handsome in his formal attire. The sight of him still took her breath away. But now it was paired with the deep contentment of knowing he was hers. Ready? And she meant it. They walked into the clearing together, toward the altar where the pack elder waited. The assembled crowd rose as they passed. Lyra saw faces she recognized now. Pack members who had welcomed her, who had watched her grow from the frightened girl who'd fled the first ceremony into the confident woman she'd become. She even saw her stepfamily in the crowd. They looked sour but present. Marcus had insisted on inviting them. He said it was important for them to see what she'd become. Lyra had agreed, not because she needed their approval, but because she was proud of how far she'd come. You look radiant, Marcus murmured as they took their places at the altar. So do you. She smiled up at him. She remembered that first night when his golden eyes had seemed so intense, so overwhelming. Now they were home. The ceremony was everything the first one hadn't been. Instead of hiding, Lyra stood tall and proud. Instead of feeling like an outsider watching someone else's life, she was the center of her own story. When the elder spoke about the sacred bond between mates, she thought about everything she and Marcus had overcome to get here. The fears they'd conquered, the trust they'd built. Do you, Marcus, Alpha King of the Eastern Pack, take Lyra as your mate, your queen, your equal in all things? I do. His voice carried across the clearing, strong and certain. Do you, Lyra, take Marcus as your mate, your king, your partner in this life and whatever comes after? She looked into his golden eyes and saw their whole future there. Challenges they'd face together, children they'd raise with love instead of cruelty, a pack they'd lead with wisdom and compassion. I do. The elder bound their hands with silk cord. He spoke the ancient words that would tie their souls together forever. But Lyra barely heard them. She was too busy drowning in the love she saw in Marcus's eyes. Too busy marveling at how different she felt from the girl who'd hidden in a cottage not so long ago. When Marcus kissed her, sealing their bond, the crowd erupted in cheers, but all Lyra could hear was the steady beat of his heart against hers. All she could feel was the absolute rightness of this moment. My queen, he whispered against her lips. My king, she whispered back. Later, at the feast, Lyra sat beside Marcus at the head table. She watched their packs celebrate. Children ran between the tables laughing. Couples danced under strings of lights. Everyone seemed genuinely happy for them, This was what belonging felt like. Regrets? Marcus asked, echoing his question from that first night they'd spent together. Lyra looked around at the joyful faces, at the pack that had become her family, at the man who'd seen her worth when she couldn't see it herself. She thought about the frightened girl who'd believed she was unlovable. She felt nothing but gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. None, she said. She meant it with her whole heart. Not a single one. Marcus raised his glass. To second chances. To finding where we belong. Lyra clinked her glass against his. To love that sees us as we really are. To forever. As the celebration continued around them, Lyra leaned into Marcus's warmth and smiled. She'd spent years believing she was unwanted, unworthy of love, but she'd been wrong. She wasn't the girl her stepfamily had tried to convince her she was. She was Marcus's queen, the pack's Luna. Most importantly, she was enough exactly as she was. The stars came out as the party wound down. Marcus led her onto the dance floor for one last song. As they swayed together under the moonlight, Lyra thought about how much had changed since that first ceremony. How much she had changed. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what? For seeing me, for choosing me, for not giving up on me when I couldn't believe in myself." Marcus spun her slowly, then pulled her back into his arms. "Thank you for letting me love you, for becoming the queen I always knew you could be." "Queen Lyra," she said, testing the title one more time. It fit perfectly now. "My beautiful, brave, perfect queen." She laughed. The sound was bright and free. "Not perfect, but yours." "Mine," he agreed. He kissed her under the stars while their pack celebrated around them. The future stretched out ahead of them, golden with possibility. If you loved this story of finding where you truly belong, let me know in the comments below.